Am I the asshole for working past midnight in my dorm? My 19M roommate 19M sleeps only a couple feet from my desk and requests all lights off in the room, including my monitors, and no sound, meaning I can't type on the extra quiet keyboard I bought, past 12 a.m. He also has blackout curtains for context, which I've told him interfere with my ability to wake up in the morning, but I've let him keep them. Sometimes I need to be working past midnight and can't just leave the dorm because having multiple monitors and a keyboard helps me, especially since I'm a CS major. I told him to just get an eye mask if the light from 2 monitors, facing away from him, is that much of a problem, but he said even the sound of a keyboard, specifically designed to be quiet, would keep him up and wants me out of the room completely while he sleeps. Am I the asshole? You are the asshole. Working past midnight in a shared dorm is unreasonable if it's keeping him awake. The keyboard would wake me up too. You can go and work somewhere else or work at a more reasonable time of day. He can't sleep somewhere else. You are the asshole. Typing on a computer with multiple monitors 2 feet away from a person trying to sleep? You need to figure out how to get your work done at a regular time or in a different location. You are the asshole. A dark and quiet room at night is a reasonable expectation when sharing a room. You need to do your work at another time or in another place. Why do you need to be working past midnight? It's coming across as you making your poor planning someone else's problem. No roommate would be happy with being kept awake, unless there's some party drunk, so it's not exclusive to this person. You are the asshole. Nah. College is a time of late night studying. I lost track of my all-nighters back then. It does suck for him though. If you can't find a compromise, you too need to find other roommates. You are the asshole. Sleeping while someone is working on a computer is virtually impossible. Get a laptop and go work somewhere else. Bedrooms are for sleeping, and expecting quiet and peace after midnight is super reasonable. Am I the asshole for not wanting to attend my mom's burial because of what I found out after her death? I am the youngest of my mother's children and the most educated. In 2009, I encouraged my mother and older brother to buy a house. At that time, my mother didn't have a credit history, but my brother and father did. With my guidance, we bought the house using a loan from my older sister for the down payment. The mortgage was under my father's and brother's names. From 2009 to 2014, my mother and brother made the mortgage payments. After I graduated college in 2014, I took over the payments with my mother. Since I earned more, I paid the larger share, even after I moved out in 2016 to attend graduate school. I continued paying to the mortgage while in grad school, working full-time and living in a rented room until 2021. In 2018, my mom called crying that she could no longer work because she's aging. She initially told my older brother, who did nothing, but insisted she continue working. She then told me and I retired her, another burden. I had to process her Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. Then my brother came to me about getting her life insurance. Again, another burden. As it turned out, I ended up paying. However, I didn't find out until 2021 that my brother listed only himself as the sole beneficiary of the life insurance that he wasn't paying. I blocked payments after he refused to change the beneficiary, and my mom continued to support him in 2024. After I stopped paying the mortgage, my mother, father, and brother covered the mortgage until they refinanced the house in 2024. The refinance yielded between $130,000 and $150,000. However, they only gave me $10,000 from that amount, keeping the rest, primarily my brother. My mom lied to me at the time, claiming there wasn't much money from the refinance. I only found out the true amount few days ago from my dad. After my mother's recent passing, my brother asked all of us to contribute to her funeral expenses. I initially offered to pay $4,000, the largest contribution. However, a few days ago, my father told me that my mother knowingly lied to me about the refinance and supported my brother's decision to keep most of the money. I also learned that my brother initially wanted to give me only $5,000, and it was my father who insisted it be raised to $10,000. Given these revelations, I have decided not to contribute financially to my mother's funeral and not to attend. We are immigrants and my parents and family have this misogynistic mindset that the male child is the most important. My dad informed me few days ago that it's the sister's job to support the brother to be successful. My brother is 8 years older and married with a job. He's done nothing for me or my parents, but my parents always attributed my accomplishments and help to him. Our dad and my other older siblings are begging me, but I'm done. Sorry for any typos. I left out some parts, because the story is too long already. Not the asshole you don't owe them anything. Your brother can spend some of that $130,000 he pocketed to pay for the expenses. Not the asshole. You funded their lives for years and got backstabbed. You've already paid enough for this family. Not the asshole if your brother is the most important sibling out of you two, he can foot the bill with that extra money. You don't owe your family your appearance, especially after their blatant disregard for your efforts. You deserve that money, and your mom and brother are absolutely the assholes. Not the asshole. I don't think you should contribute anything to the cost, especially considering he kept so much of that refi money. As far as attending, that's completely up to you, and you are not an asshole if you decide not to go. Take the time to think about how it might affect you if you don't, but do what you feel is best for you. Good luck. Now is the time to set some boundaries and stop letting your family leech off you. What gets me isn't the money, it's the lie. It's the realization that the ones you've carried were standing behind you with a knife. That kind of betrayal changes how you see family. After the anger and disappointment settle, there's a stillness that speaks louder than words. It's the moment you realize you have nothing left to prove. Walking away isn't an act of bitterness, it's your act of self-respect, the quiet decision to honor your own worth when others refuse to. So grieve your mother in your own way. You don't owe anyone your presence. Good luck. Am I the asshole for calling the police on a neighbor? I need some feedback here. I didn't think I was the asshole at first, but now I'm starting to wonder. Last week I, 50F, was home alone while my husband, 55M, was out running errands when the doorbell rang. I never answer the door because it's always either Amazon or solicitors, though fewer solicitors since we hung a sign, so I just went on with my business. Except it wasn't either of those things, it was man 70s, who began beating on the metal security screen door and angrily calling out for Sue. I couldn't see him at all without opening the door, and hell if I was going to do that. I thought maybe he'd just go away if I stayed quiet, but he came around the side of the house where he could get to some windows and started banging on those. I was unbelievably terrified by then. I am a small woman with physical ailments, so not very good at defending myself. I herded the cats into the bedroom upstairs, locked the door, and called the police. I should note, we have 2 legal defense items in the bedroom, but I'm not proficient and didn't feel comfortable getting them out just then. I then called my husband and waited on the phone with him until the police arrived. By the time they did, the man had made his way down the street to harass some other houses where no one was home. Now, here's the thing. It turns out he's the elderly parent of a neighbor. He has dementia and escaped their house directly across the street. I have no more details than that. Obviously, I did not press charges. Now the neighbors are pissed that I called the police on their father, and are telling the other neighbors to watch out for us as we'll report their family business to the police, and my husband is pissed that they're pissed at me. We're very quiet people who normally keep ourselves to ourselves, but we do wave and say hello to everyone, until now. Our neighbor on one side is a widow with whom we are good friends, and agrees with what I did. But all the neighbors across the street are now scowling at us, shaking their head, turning away, etc. I feel bad for the man and his family. Clearly I'm not one to call the police at the drop of a hat. But what else was I supposed to do? Legally, I could have done much worse, and then called the police, but I didn't. So, am I the asshole for calling the police on a neighbor? Not the asshole. While I understand that caring for dementia patients is challenging, you didn't report their family business. You reported a strange man behaving in a threatening manner. If they cannot provide adequate care for him, then they need to look into a memory care facility. Him wandering about puts both himself and others at risk. They shouldn't be blaming you for the results of their slip-up. Not the asshole. You had no idea who he was, and he was banging on your doors and windows. Anyone would have called the police. Not the asshole. They should be thanking you, as 911 is there to help all parties. Far worse could have gone wrong. Not the asshole. If they're that sensitive about it, they need to keep their family business out of public view. And get yourself proficient with those legal defense items. Sounds like a weird neighborhood. Not the asshole. You did what you had to with the information you had at the time. They need to wrangle their father a little more securely from now on. You are right. Someone else may have felt even more threatened and used whatever force they deemed necessary. It might end up differently next time. Not the asshole the neighbors are upset because you were frightened by someone you didn't know beating on your door and windows? The neighbors really missed an opportunity to leverage this incident to share a picture of their father and their contact info with all their neighbors, so anyone who sees him out and about can reach out to them. The fact they didn't share info didn't show some concern that you were reasonably scared by his behavior, and thankful that all ended well, with him safely returning home, tells you everything you need to know about them. Am I the asshole for asking my girlfriend to pay me back after she broke my gaming headset? So I, 25F, have a gaming headset that I use pretty much daily. It wasn't super high-end, but it also wasn't cheap. I saved up for it, and it cost around $120. I use it for gaming, work calls, and just general stuff. Last week, my girlfriend, 23F, was hanging out at my apartment. She sat down on my desk chair without realizing the headset was on it, and when she sat, she basically crushed one of the ear cups. It snapped the plastic part, and now it doesn't sit right on my head, plus the mic doesn't work anymore. I wasn't mad in the moment cause accidents happen, but I did say something like, "Damn, that's broken now. I'm gonna need to get a new one." She laughed it off and said, "Well, you'll get an upgrade." I kind of awkwardly asked if she'd be willing to split the cost, or at least help replace it since it was her mistake. She immediately got defensive and said, "Are you serious? It was an accident. I'm not paying for that. You're being ridiculous." I said I didn't think it was ridiculous. If I accidentally broke something of hers, I'd absolutely offer to replace it. She rolled her eyes and told me I care too much about stuff. Since then, she's been distant, and one of our mutual friends even told me I should just let it go because it's not worth fighting over. But it's not pocket change to me, and it just feels unfair. So, am I the asshole for asking her to help pay for the headset she broke, even though it was an accident? All these people commenting really just sit down without looking at the chair first? LMAO. Not the asshole. If there is some huge backlash for a reasonable ask, that is not a good sign for the relationship. I'd be annoyed if a friend or loved one refused to help replace what they'd destroyed. But for them to get upset at the ask would be even more annoying. Don't leave things that shouldn't be sat on in places people sit. 50-50 is what I would say is fair. Not the asshole. She sat on your thing and broke it. She should have looked where she was sitting. Sure, it was an accident, but she doesn't seem sorry that it happened at all. Not to imply it was on purpose or anything, but if I broke someone's headphones, I'd at least offer to pay for part of it. Info. I guess why would you not expect a guest to sit in an available chair? Does she know to never sit in your desk chair if she comes over? Did you not clean up for her visit? Why would you leave something in your chair? I think it becomes a slippery slope on expecting people to cover/replace things that are caused by your own negligence too. If I put my laptop on a perilous surface and someone comes by and knocks it off accidentally, do they now have to pay the replacement? What if I put it there purposefully to try to get someone to knock it over? Not the asshole. Even if it was an accident, I think she should absolutely help replace it. Especially since, I'm inferring here, it seems like you're tight on money right now. I'm with you in the sense that if I broke something that belonged to someone, even if accidental, I feel like it's basic courtesy to offer to help replace it. I'm also just not a huge fan of how she immediately called you ridiculous for wanting her to replace it.